Bum, bum. Hey everybody, welcome back to the stream. Hope you're having a good Thursday night, or if you're in Europe, I hope you're having a super duper good late 5 a.m. night. Anyway, I'm gonna be working on my comic. I got it pulled up again, kind of just starting where I left off last week. Unfortunately, I have a big deadline on the 13th. After that, things will speed up and be back to normal again. They're supposed to be back to normal last week. That was my, or the week before last was my original deadline, and I was pretty hyped about that. But then I got an extension, and I was like, I do want to put another chunk of work into this. So I just have been using that time painting this giant painting, which hopefully comes out relatively soon because I'd like to share that. But yeah, unexpected, but it is what it is. And just as a thing to anybody who's a patron, feel free with the Patreon, to come in and out of the Patreon whenever you like. Things have obviously been slow lately on there. So, if it's not up to standard at the moment, I'm always cool with anybody hopping off and coming back when stuff's moving again consistently. So never, don't be a loyalist just for the sake of it. I don't mind it at all. But thank you all so much for being a member there, and then for watching these streams. I appreciate it. So from now on, hopefully more comics. More time. So I'm just looking this over. I'm looking at her hanging breasts, wondering how much detail I'm going to put there. How are things going? Slow? Sketchbooks are on fire? I mean, I appreciate that. I'm just saying, in case anybody, is feeling it. They're like, where's like more posts and things? I just wanted to let you know that I do see that, and I am actively going to address that as soon as I have more time. And I'll do all the details of these breasts. That's right. My wife's in the chat. Kim. She's modding, so watch out. Don't say anything too lewd. We hate lewd and rude. Nah, you can be lewd and rude. Honestly, coming back to drawing comics after doing these gigantic paintings it's such a relief. I pretty much am like working on my deadline right up until I press go live. So I'm like doing that primarily. It's like an all day, all night situation right now, but it's good. I'm making a lot of really meaningful progress on it, and I'm very happy with where it's at right now. But I'm excited to wrap this comic up. I'm also excited to get back into finishing Steve Volume 3. We're so close to that whole script being completely ironed out. We have a huge spreadsheet with every individual issue on it. And whenever I have like deadlines and things, I always feel that I'm taking such a long break from this thing, and oh no, gonna have to do so much to catch up. And then I look back at our spreadsheet to see just where we were at, and I was like, oh, holy shit, it's almost done. I was like, okay, I feel less stressed. I get like a crazy amount of anxiety when I feel like I've just fallen behind on stuff. If anybody wants to tag me in the chat, ask a question, it's just at Dave Raposa. We had a very eventful morning this morning. We got a 300-year-old dog named Wacom, and we woke up to, we keep her like, she's kind of going blind. So we keep her in the laundry room with like a little heater in her dog bed, because otherwise she'll just wander around the house pooping and peeing. She's at that age. So we got her in there, and we woke up this morning to absolutely every inch of that room was covered in shit. Like just crazy amounts of diarrhea. So the day started very well. I was like, this is I woke up and I said, Wiko, how'd you know this is exactly what I wanted? This is what I wanted. This is what I wanted this morning. You knew it. You really are my best friend. They just cleaned up. Like there was so much shit that it was on the walls. Isn't that crazy? Shit on the walls. How do you get shit on the walls? If you feel down and money wouldn't be a factor, what would be your biggest motivation if you would need it? So if money wasn't a factor, what would keep me motivated to work? I mean, just like finishing large projects. I think that would be like my motivation, is just kind of like getting better at my craft, getting better at writing, and just trying to learn new things. Because if it wasn't like a financial incentive, then I think it would be just my own personal kind of like wants to put things out, create things, and make cool stuff. I would still need a reason to have like pretty tight deadlines, because I think I need that. I need some constraints. I need some pressure. A lack of pressure would cripple me a little bit if I felt super comfortable. So I would need to still feel uncomfortable. Sounds like the blessing of an elder god. It felt like that. Just everywhere. Made any more progress on Rebirth, Final Fantasy VII? Yeah, where am I at right now? I just did the ship, and now I'm on that island, the like resort island where you get to ride segways. It's pretty great. The game's awesome. That's been like my my before bed gift to myself, is to just chill for a second and play that. It's really good. And my kids have watched little bits of it. I haven't shown them like everything, and I try to skip the parts where they're swearing. But if I'm with the kids and we're hanging out, I'll do some fights. They want to see me kill dragons and monsters. How many hours do you dedicate to your work projects in contrast to you being a normal human being? 10 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. and then, or 4 p.m. rather, and then after that, if I have to, 7 p.m. to about 10 or 11. However many hours that is. That's what I do. Did I ever get to trying oils? Not really. Nothing serious. I have everything that I would need. I was gifted oils like a long time ago by a buddy of mine. But I just never got into it. I also like felt like I never really had the space for it. I'd always heard you needed things to be pretty like aired out. And up until now, I haven't had that. And ever since moving into this house, I haven't done anything outside of digital. But that's okay. I mean, I have enough on my plate as is, and I'm happy with my work. I don't have a gaping hole or anything like that. My dog does. I don't. Gaping hole. And it's not my doing, that's just where all that shit came from. I'm just trying to see how many people I can bleed from the stream. Do I do anything at all to stay active / stay in shape or protect against RSI, etc.? I stretch. I've actually been keeping up with a daily morning exercise every day, which was one of my wife and I have been doing weekly meetings. Well, we're trying to do them weekly. Sometimes stuff gets in the way and we do bi-weekly meetings where we just sit at the dinner table and with notebooks, and we just basically go over what we're doing, progress we've made on goals, and just like a reflection on the week we had and then the upcoming week. Talk about like what we're gonna do. Well, one of my big ones was health stuff, so I had been not doing it for a long time, and then I just had to get something going, so I've been doing that now pretty consistently for the past couple weeks, so that's been good. I still need to get like a gym membership going, or honestly I would like to just have a personal trainer, and just not because I need somebody to tell me what to do, but I like having accountability for things, or like a appointment that I know I have to go to. Forgot I was gonna give her like meth teeth, little like random nubs. Yeah, I have a hard time with like accountability stuff. Like I like having the pressure of somebody helping, you know, keep me in line just by having an appointment or something. But like I have to do it with food too. That's like my next big one that I've been talking about for like weeks, is just getting in control of my diet, because I'll do the thing where like I'll stress eat, you know, like if there's just too much stuff going on, I can zone out and just not even think about it. And then when I black out and wake up covered in food. We used to do a thing for Crimson Daggers a while ago, and it was called Gyms and Daggers. Crimson Daggers was a study group that I had. I was thinking about that. I was like, wonder if we did something like that on the Discord, if people would be down. But then I was like, uh-oh, that's not body positive, is it? I'm just joking. I would still do it. But yeah, I would like a group thing to be like accountable for health. I wonder how you do that, like share how you've been doing and metrics and all that stuff. It's hard for me to do that sort of thing on my own. Like I can make my own comics and keep to a schedule like this sort of thing and publish stuff and get stuff printed. But when it comes to like my own health, it's so hard. It's so hard for me to like do that just in a vacuum. Around how long did it take you to make the character designs in this? How do you figure out and stick with an art style for the whole comic? The art style changed on this one from the first couple pages to these. I just kind of go with what fits the overall feeling of the comic. That's my initial instinct, is like focus on something that matches the way the story feels. And then, you know, because this is like a more whimsical thing, and I've been looking for that for like sci-fi, because what I don't want to do is a sci-fi story that feels like overtly sci-fi. Like I like sci-fi that feels tangentially related to like fantasy. So I feel like a looser brush style helps kind of marry those two things. And I had been looking for something like this for a while. And finding it in Krita with this brush felt like a really great way to do that. So that's why I chose this approach. And then I'm going to bring this over into the actual Star Vale comic itself, like the larger comic. So this one is more fantasy because this is like a short kind of, almost like, not a fairy tale, but almost like a myth in this universe, like a weird offshoot. But I'm excited to use this for like spaceships and things. I think it's gonna look really cool. But the character designs probably took me, I don't know, probably like just a couple hours. I had some pretty good ideas of what I wanted to do. I have to have like a general idea of the story first, and then I start kind of building out things. So I had already had like a couple thoughts in my head of like what they might look like. And then I do some roughs, but I keep things kind of open. Like my character designs aren't like super well thought out in terms of like being like really over designed. I tend to keep it loose, especially like in this style. Like this character here has like a couple simple things, but I'm not doing like a one-for-one sticking to like every single little detail. So like a lot of that design work and like her armor stuff on like her head and that sort of thing, like a lot of that is kind of implied. So it's not like I have all of the ornamenture stuff on her like completely figured out. I know the general vibe of the characters, kind of sun related, so like I go off of that, but I let myself be kind of loose. Hey Kimmy, I don't know if it's a for sure thing, but I smell dog poop. There's a good chance, everybody, that our old dog just shit in the house again in real time. I don't know for sure, but I smell something. And it ain't good. If it's brutal, then we might have to take a poop break. I just saw my wife over there frantically looking around for the poop. You go, no. I work as an artist 25% maybe, and then the rest real job. Oh, and the rest is the real job. I did not fart. Would you recommend being a full-time artist if I'm not as good as you? I can get jobs, but I don't know if the leap is worth it. I mean, no, it's up to you if you want to. I guess I don't know. Like, are you already getting work doing it? Yeah, I'm getting work, but the comfort of having a steady paycheck versus being self-employed is what scares me. Yeah, it's hard for sure. I think like if you don't think you have the stomach for freelance, I don't know, I might be hesitant about it. Like for me, I always wanted to do it, so I kind of always knew I would just go for it, and I didn't really hesitate on that sort of thing. I just knew that the risk was worth it for me. I wanted that to be my life, regardless of if it was really hard, and I just kind of went for it. But it is like a major commitment, and you're going to be working way more than you probably currently work. Doesn't mean it's the same type of work. It doesn't mean like it's going to be, like if you have a physically demanding job, obviously that's different than just being an artist and sitting around. Like I love my job. Like I don't think it's difficult insofar as like, you have deadlines and things, and every job's a different type of challenge. So, you're always kind of like figuring something new out, and there's no guarantees in anything. And like there's a lot of stuff about it that's like difficult, in terms of an art career. But yeah, the business side of it, I think, is like what turns most people off. Is that like you got to kind of be your own manager and boss and make sure that like shit's coming in consistently, and you're invoicing everything and keeping hours and trying to like constantly market yourself. There's a lot of upkeep. You don't know if doing it as a hobby or going for it is the best option. I mean, honestly, trust your gut and like know what you're willing to put in for it. Like, if you think it's something that you could viably make work, and just like you wouldn't feel burnt out on having that be your daily thing and constantly work at it, then yeah. But like most artists I know haven't been freelancing as long as me. Like they usually end up going into a position somewhere. I personally just love the freedom of getting to kind of hop between projects and things, so I wouldn't trade freelance for anything. Like I love being a freelancer, and it's been so many years that it's just kind of second nature to me. But just know that it's like a major commitment. But most artists I know don't really like it that much. Yeah, like my wife, Kim in the chat, like she helps me with everything. Like outside, like I am just doing so much just in my job maintaining this stuff that like if I didn't have my wife helping just to like keep us current on all our bills and shit, like I feel like so much stuff would just fly off the track. I'd be late on so many things and just not doing great. But that's also why I'm able to focus so much on it, is having that help and support. That's before, when I was just living alone working at this, I would fall behind on so much stuff because I was just so obsessed with work. It would be like I have the money to pay this bill, I'm just not doing it. And my credit is just suffering. Kim doesn't draw like the way I do, but she does a bunch of artistic stuff. Like she's always, you know, having like projects she wants to do, and like she's making her own like vanity right now. And yeah, she's a very creative person. She can draw if she wanted to. Like I know this just because I've been around enough artists and students and things that if she wanted to do this for a job and she dedicated herself to it, she could definitely do a version of like being a professional artist. I don't think she'd want to do like video games and things like that, but like, you know, doing like more referential things, more like traditional art, I bet she could do it. Would I consider making a Patreon basics video about figure drawing? I mean, probably not figure drawing, but I already have a backlog of things that I need to do for the Patreon. So I couldn't commit to anything like that. I have to do one on my current process because it's about time we revisit that because it's changed quite a bit. Like in some ways it hasn't changed much, but in terms of my like overall process to get like painterly feel and all that, like I need to show what I'm currently doing. Because throughout those basic videos, I'm just kind of iterating and getting better as I go and figuring it out over and over again and just trying to refine my approach. I almost forgot she has these armbands. Okay, slowly coming together. They're not gonna know what hit them when this comic drops. Well, I mean, I don't really care. It doesn't need to be some like massive success or nothing. This is just for me. And also anybody who's down. Just trying my best to do something new for myself and make a little story that I like. And you gotta tell yourself, like, it doesn't matter if anybody else likes this. I just need to give it my all. And that's what matters. I learn from it, I grow, I move on to the next thing and use everything that I gained from that experience to make something else. But me being happy with this will not rely on any sort of financial success or, you know, what anybody else says. I'll just feel good that I did something difficult. An over the shoulder stream would be good. Yeah, that's funny. Like, I think that would be almost like more well received than these streams. I think people just like that type of perspective from artists. Like something like that. Just like slightly more connected to the work. I am using Krita. It's a free art program. Obviously, you should support them. I want to make sure I mention that. It's free, but you should donate, because otherwise it can't be free forever with all the work they're putting into it. I use a pretty high resolution for my comic pages. This is 450 DPI, 9,000 by 12,000 pixels, only because I can do that, because the computer's, you know, fast enough for that. But it's not a necessity. Make sure to tag me in your questions just so I can see them a little easier. At Dave Raposa. Let's say you would want to work on the comic for the next X amount of years with like monthly releases. How would you plan ahead with stuff that you might not like in the future? What, that I wouldn't like? What do you mean? Like if I didn't want to do comics forever? Or like narratively? Yeah, this brush needs like a high resolution canvas. You can get away with smaller image sizes, but the DPI would need to be a little bit higher to get like the fine lines I'm getting. Narratively and design wise. Oh, I mean that I don't think that's that difficult. If you're like locked into a storyline, like one thing that happens with Steve Lichtman a lot of times, like when we're writing that comic, like stuff that you started years ago, or like through lines of characters and whatever else, like after some time living with it, you'll be, you know, down the road, and you can kind of find a way to do what you'd like to do with a character, even if you feel like you didn't set it up, by just kind of going back and getting creative with the setups and payoffs that you already have, you know, there. And then you can be like, oh, actually, I didn't even realize it, but we kind of set it up like this by building out the story in a certain direction. So you can think of like clever ways to write your way out of a box. And I always like those moments the best because it feels spontaneous in the writing, but it also will feel that way on the page because you didn't necessarily expect it, and it still makes sense narratively. It feels like a nice twist, or it makes it feel like that was a really clever payoff to a thing, and you're like, well, we didn't actually intend that. We weren't thinking about it in the moment, but it makes a lot of sense now on reflection, now that we've come up with this new direction. It's like, oh, we actually kind of are, you know, we weren't thinking of doing that, but it ended up that way. Like, I really like those moments because they feel like a real unexpected thing that the reader, you know, wouldn't have seen coming. That was like one of my favorite things from Stephen King's On Writing book. I believe it was from that, where he was saying that if you're not surprised by a twist in a story, then the reader won't be. You'd imagine Stephen King going, "Whoa, that's wild," at his writing desk by himself. I mean, he probably was. He was like coked up, staying up all night, writing Cujo and shit. He probably was like, "Holy shit, what? What did I just do?" I've never done cocaine, but I imagine the last thing I'd want to do on cocaine is sit by myself in a room and write about monsters. Maybe I'm wrong, but maybe I would get super inspired. But like, I imagine I'd want to be out doing stuff, talking to people and being in the world. Everything that I've ever kind of like written or thought of on drugs has been pretty stupid. So I don't know how much of that I'd use. I'll like read emails from myself. Just like jokes I wrote to myself or like Steve or something, or just like concepts of things. And I'm like, wow, that stinks. You know, like on reflection, I don't know. I don't know if that worked. Is your Patreon noob friendly or more advanced? I'd say it's more advanced. It's very like personal, I think, is what I would say. Like, I spend a majority of the time on that Patreon trying to convey things that like I've learned and giving you like a basics breakdown of like how I do something currently. That's like as basic as it gets, is that series. And even then, I'm not sure how noob friendly that is. It's more like if you already have some basic understanding of the programs and things. Like I'm not trying to kind of like call my Patreon like a teaching platform for beginners to figure stuff out. It's more if you're interested in my approach. You like this middle panel? Actually, I think this is like one of the more disappointing panels I've done for this whole book. I like the way the kid looks on the bottom. He looks cool, but she looks bad. I mean, it looks fine. It's like serviceable. I'm trying not to be like too hard on myself, but if I had thumbnailed this out recently, this would be a different look for sure. It's okay. That, you know, that's just me shitting on this. That's why I'm kind of being a little slow with it. I'm just kind of looking at it going like, ugh. Ugh. I mean, I'm happy. I'm happy if you all like it regardless. I'm not saying that your opinions are wrong. I'm just saying that, like the job I'm working on right now, like off of the stream. Like I have this deadline currently that I'm working up for the 13th. And everybody that I'm working with at the company that hired me, like they all like it, right? But for me, I'm like working on it the whole time thinking like, God damn it, I need to keep on working this up. And anybody that like sees like my wife would be like, oh, it looks good. And like, I know, like we were just talking about this when she was in here before the stream. It's like, I know that it would be fine. Like if it went out and it was used for whatever they're going to use it for. And like, I know it would be received well, but I wouldn't be happy. So I'm just doing like more on it to make it better. And I don't know. To me, it's super important that everything I put out, especially things that people are going to pay me for, like it has to be my best effort. So I get kind of hard on myself with those sort of things. It's like, you want to put out the best version of yourself if it's, for your work. If it's going to be this very public facing thing. And I try to make that stuff really hit in a certain way and feel good and have a ton of energy and have all the polish that I want. And I just want these things to be good. So like, even if other people like it or I get approval for it, that's not good enough for me. It doesn't mean I'm gonna like stop. The only reason I'm not like redoing this one with that same logic is that I think comics are kind of a slightly different animal in that respect, where you can kind of leave things a little looser here and there and not be so like married to something where you feel like it needs to be absolutely perfect, because it's doing more than that. Like in a single illustration for a client, I'm conveying everything in one image, whereas in a comic it's being conveyed over multiple pages. It's more about the story and the pacing and all that sort of thing. So as long as like all of those other elements are working, I don't feel so bad. But yeah, it's a different mindset for me, especially after doing like Steve Lichman, where the drawings weren't anything special, where it's more about just like the comedy. So I wasn't like really concerned with having like these beautiful images that I worked on forever. It's like, because that's not why people are looking at it. This one kind of has to accomplish both. So if I get there to a decent level, then I feel good. No way, Akira Toriyama's dead? Oh my god. How old? Wow. That just happened? Wow. $68. That's not old enough. That's brutal. Well, rest in peace, Akira Toriyama. Like one of my biggest influences, and many others, of course. Man, Man, that hits. No way. Died on March 1st? How am I just hearing about this? Did like the news just come out? Or has that been a thing? I really didn't know that. Was just announced. Oh, okay. God damn. That's so sad. Man, that's fucking me up a little bit. What an iconic person. I'm just trying to subdue my quiet tears from coming out. Did you, if anybody ever read Steve Lichtman Volume 2, we have a whole Akira Toriyama bit at the end of that book where I spent like a decent chunk of time trying to mimic his style. Maybe I can pull some of that up. Here, hold on. Let me mute my screen here for a sec. I gotta look for my final files here. Whoops. This was my Akira Toriyama homage at the end of Steve Lichtman Volume 2. Did a whole dungeon quest thing. The last chunk of the book. Colors here are all washed out because this is CMYK. But yeah, did a whole thing of his like manga style. All the written dialogue in here was translated by hold on. I want to get the link for you all. So here you go. If you're familiar, all the dialogue in this was translated from our script by Tim Rogers of Action Button. Yeah, Tim helped with this. Yeah, it was all very dumb. But yeah, this was our dumb little thing that we did. And what's this? Oh yeah. Man, that really deflated my balloon. This stuff is making you want to practice. I like trying to do a bunch of random stuff. I think it's very very good for you to just like try things that are a little like outside your wheelhouse. Does Dan voice the Japanese in the audiobook? He does, and Tim wrote out how all the dialogue would be spoken phonetically so that Dan could read it for the audiobook. So yeah, Tim Rogers did like the whole breakdown so that it was easier to read. But yeah, if you have the Steve Lichman Volume 2 audiobook, that Japanese section at the end is read by Dan in his racist voice. It's racist accent. Yeah, if anybody has any other questions, comments, nothing like that, drop it in the chat at Dave Raposa. I'll hang out just for a little bit longer, and then I'm gonna get off of here and probably look at some of my Akira Toriyama books. Weep some tears for the legend. There could be a silver lining to Toriyama's death. Well, I wouldn't make Toriyama's death about me making what I want to make, but I understand your point. And believe me, I didn't need Toriyama to die. But when my dad died, I had that same thought where I was like, holy shit, I better do things. Because my dad died pretty young. Were you the one who extended the deadline? Are you doing it as unpaid labor, or do you have to haggle with them and tell them that you didn't want it published as is? How does that work? They found time, because I just basically said, like, I would love more time if you have it available, and they talked to their team, their marketing team, and they were able to extend my deadline. So that was them just having some leeway, but I didn't ask. I just, I was hoping that they had it, but if they didn't, I would have just made do with the time that they gave me. I'm really glad that they had more time though. It makes it way easier to make something that I'm proud of. What do I think happens when I die? I hope there's something else. You know, I think like before kids, I didn't really have that much of like a thought about it. I was never really afraid of it. I was never like thinking about it like, oh, I'll die someday like that. I don't have that thing that like everybody talks about. I don't know why. I don't like fear it that much. But since having kids, I fear it insofar as it affects my family. So like I hope there's something so that I can see everybody again, because otherwise it's brutal. I'm not like religious necessarily, but I do have high hopes. You know, I'm crossing my fingers that that's what happens, that I get to see my kids again. You hope so too, but I assume it's the same thing that happens to every other kind of animal. What, they get eaten? I die and then a wolf comes in and just eats my corpse. You finished a Final Fantasy painting yesterday as practice piece for a digital painting after watching you in other tutorials. It's turned out as I feel is my best piece I've done so far. Well, that's great. That's really good. Challenging yourself to do something like that, it's just going to help you grow. I do that all the time. I just take stuff on that like I have no real need to. I'm like, here, nobody's asking me to do this giant painting, but I'm gonna make myself do it and then get better that way, and hopefully people pay me to make big paintings from now on. When you die, do you haunt your family for fun? No. As a joke, maybe. But in all reality, I'm not gonna float around my kids and be like, whoa, I'm your dead dad. Cry for me. That's too indulgent. Do you have a go-to Akira Toriyama art book? No, I have the Dragon Ball one, and then I have some other like random art books. I actually don't have like an extensive collection of that, but yeah. Most of what I like is his vehicle designs. Those are some of my favorites. That whole design shape language of the Akira Toriyama, like motorcycles and, you know, like literally anything vehicular, machines, like all that stuff rules. That's like some of my favorites. How do you learn a more stylistic style like anime or comic books from a more realistic style? I just take an interest in it and try it, go for it, just work on it all the time. If it's something that you genuinely want to do, you just look for great examples of people who've accomplished something that you would like to accomplish. You know, some similar aspects to like the style you're aiming for, and then you just mimic that a little bit until you start to understand it. Like study the way you study anything else. And then obviously like take a step back after studying and try to find your own voice by just using what you've learned and who you were prior and build it out. How about haunting one and only one? One and only one. Yes. How about haunting one and only one kid as a joke? I don't choose favorites. Is it mechanical drawings in general you like, or specifically transportation type vehicles? Well, all Akira Toriyama's vehicles share like a common design language. There's too many. Like I love so much of them. Like, thankfully, that new game, I forget what it's called, that like desert game that's Akira Toriyama style. That one has like a ton of his vehicle designs in it, which is so cool to see come to life, like the tanks and like walking mechs and stuff like that. What do I think about Clip Studio Paint? I'm actually using it right now to tighten up that painting I was mentioning earlier, the deadline that I have, I'm doing, like, I really like Clip Studio for this one particular watercolor brush that I have that I use to render with, which is that one's like all over the Patreon. That brush I really love because it has like a nice blend mode to it, which is great, especially since Clip Studio's, I forget the update, but whatever update it was, where they allowed for like that true color blending, where it's a more like natural thing. And yeah, painting with that's pretty great. I love the way that it just kind of like brings the colors together gradually with like a texture to it. It feels very natural and traditional looking. That's how I did a lot of my like magic cards and things towards the end of me working for them. Like a lot of those were Clip Studio. Like if you ever saw my Draugr, the like undead Nordic Viking dude, that stuff was all in Clip Studio. And the same thing with like the I forget his name, the Dream Muncher. I can find it. If you check out my page on my website, my Magic the Gathering page, I'm trying to pull it up for you, but the Magic the Gathering section in there has a decent amount of that stuff. So a lot of my like large format planeswalker paintings, those are all done in Clip Studio with that brush. It's funny, I tried to go to my website and it's just not loading at all. Here, I'm posting the link in the chat. So the first like actually like the first like all okay, forget that I said the first. Literally every single one of the posts that's in there, every one of those images was done in Clip Studio. Is the blending at all similar to how Rebel handles it? I don't know. Maybe. It's not. I think Rebel's more traditional feeling than Clip. But yeah, probably similar in some aspects. All right. God damn. Akira Toriyama's dead. Rest in peace to one of the most influential creators I've ever even heard of. My whole life. My God. Thanks for hanging out with me, everybody. I hope that you're all well. And if you want to support this comic, you want to support me in general, you can subscribe to the channel and check the Patreon in the link below. As always, I encourage everybody, if you only have $5 and you just want to nab 100+ hours of videos from me, just pay $5, use that month, get all that stuff, and then bounce. I don't mind. I put that stuff up just to help people, and yeah, you don't have to pay me every month for that. Only if you want to support me doing this stuff, whatever. But if you just want help with the rest, then that's the only patronage I ask for. But thank you all so much, and I'll see you next week, same time, Thursday, 8 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, something GMT. Good night, everybody. Rest in peace, Toriyama.